The Monty and the Pharaoh.
The Monty and Pharaoh Show.
And you're watching the Monty and Pharaoh Show.
Monty and the Pharaoh. With Monty and the Pharaoh.
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 Monty and Pharaoh.
It's Monty and the Pharaoh. And Monty and the Pharaoh. Oh, is it Monty and the Pharaoh?
Monty and Pharaoh.
The Monty and the Pharaoh Show.
Monty and the Pharaoh.
You've got the future Hall of Famer, that rocker, Marty Jannetty, MJ in the house, and I'm sitting here with two more future Hall of Famers, Monty and the Pharaoh. We're doing that stuff and we gonna rock it.
Not just dreaming it, we're doing it for it. Straight to the top. Working hard every day just to leave out that tower.
All right, welcome back to a special Friday edition of Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast, Monty the Pharaoh, seen only here in Huntington Station, New York, live from Rockstar Studios. At the board is none other than the super producer, Mr. Stephen Miller.
Hey, we had a glitch already. I insulted one of the guests.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we'll find out later when we splat you against the wall. And to the right,
Don't do it.
to the right is the star of the show, Jimmy Farrow. Jimmy.
Good afternoon. Back again.
And we got a special band here, Bart from Wisteria Hall and the infamous Mr. J.J. McGuire. Welcome, guys. They'll be the band for this 5-hour marathon we got going on. Little riff there, Mr. McGuire. Beautiful. Thank you. And our guest of honor, Road Warrior Animal.
Yeah, get it right, Animal. Pretty hard for Hawk to be here.
You're going to be shredding.
Hey, that introduction was awesome. I hear Jannetty. Did I hear the franchise?
Yes,
you did.
Oh, man, that was awesome to hear some of those guys, man.
And we're going to add you to that list once we're done.
Damn right you are.
And Michael Elgin, man. Michael, thank you for joining us.
Oh, no, thank you very much for having me.
Now, these, my friend, are professional wrestlers.
Yes,
Look
sir.
at the size of these two guys.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
I'm a twerp. Oh, well. Oh, well.
So let's get it. We got older generation, younger generation. We do a little combo interview here. Usually we go over all your accolades and everything you've done.
We might
Obviously,
be here for weeks, though.
Animal, forget it. The list is too long. We've run out of time.
Lord.
And Michael, you're an up-and-comer, and you're making moves, and we'll get into the old Tessa Blanchard thing and everything else. But listen, I want to start off with Animal.
Yes.
A little problem with Becky Lynch, a little old news, but what's the deal with there? What was going on?
You know, man, at first when they came out with the man thing, brother just dropped his guitar. Dang! I thought I was gonna have to do, he helped write the song with Jimmy Hart. There's gonna be a rumble tonight. Remember Hawk and I did that thing, man?
Yeah.
It was horrendous, but we loved doing it. I mean, Jimmy's a great guy.
the honky tonk man might be here.
Yeah, there you go. Someone's gonna get smashed in the head with a guitar.
So
no, man, but there wasn't a lot of heat with Becky. I just said, it's funny how the wrestling fans get so offended now. It's the younger generation fan. You know what I mean? I wasn't a dig if they listened to the whole thing I did on my podcast. I said that she's a phenomenal wrestler, but you don't hear any of that part. Right?
Yeah.
All you heard is I said I didn't like the man. And I didn't like the man thing because you're getting ready to do Evolution. My thought process was, right, Why not call them the woman? Because you listen, women's wrestling has come a long way.
Absolutely.
You mentioned Tessa Blanchard, man, one of the best, if not the best female wrestlers, one of the best, right? You know, and you have Becky, who's right up there too, along with Charlotte Flair, you know, and Asuka, you know. And I'm saying, man, put the girl over. Let it be a woman thing. You know, and the man thing's getting over now.
Right.
I mean, it's like anything, man. Hey, nobody liked Hawkeye when we first came out.
Really?
Well, no, you two big muscleheads. We're not going to let them get anything in this business, but the fans ended up liking the bad boys, and they ended up being the good guys, and then we just were like, bang, like, you know, gangbusters, right? And people now have become accustomed to the man thing with Becky. You know, listen, it was just my opinion, people, you know, opinions like buttholes. Everybody's got one. Right? So you're allowed to give your opinion on something. That's all it was, man. I have nothing against Becky. I've taken pictures with her and Seth Rollins at Comic-Cons and stuff. They're two great. You know, it's one thing in our business when you're on TV, when you get to meet someone behind the scenes, and you see how much respect they have for guys and girls that have paved the way for them to have a job. That part is freaking awesome, and they both were cool human beings.
What did your brother John think about the comments? Did you hear from him? Like,
no, I don't ever talk to my brother.
Oh, really?
No, you know, Johnny and I don't talk a lot. But you can tell if you put Johnny and I next to each other, you really wouldn't even know we were brothers. I mean, we look way different, and I look more like my brother Mark. I don't know if you guys know my brother Mark was one of the wrecking crew of Terminators, right? Rage and Fury, and he and I look more alike. You know, but my brother Johnny, man, you know, Johnny. How can I say this politically? I was one of the boys. Johnny was an office guy.
Okay.
Total office guy. You know, so it's really hard. I love him to death. He's my brother.
People power?
People power was over, right? I mean, people power had you know, he had more heat than any of the heels in the company, right? At one time.
You want to like reach through the TV?
And that yellow freaking suit he wore, that red jumpsuit he wore, the wrestling ring.
Oh, holy!
It was great, but that's why they yanked him off the TV because he was getting too hot as a heel. But you know, listen, both my brother John and Mark, I got them their breaks in Japan. I opened that door and I said, hey, man, what you do with this thing, you got to take it. I can't run with it with you over here. You got to do it. Right. Johnny succeeded very well.
Right.
And then he had a job with WCW. Then got picked up by WWE. And, you know, it's, yeah, I don't talk to him as much as I should. You know, listen, he's got his own new life now with me, married. He's in with the Bella's thing, you know, and everybody there. He married the Bella's mom and stuff. So, you know, he's got his own thing going on. He's a grandfather now. So it's good for him.
Cool.
Yeah, that was going to be my question. So you actually got into the business first, and then got your brothers into the business.
Yeah, I was in the business probably about 2 or 3 years. My brothers were going to school at Mankato State University in Minnesota.
Right.
And when they got out, they said, "Hey, we want to do the wrestling camp." And I don't even know if either one of them know this. I paid Nelson Royal, who ran a camp for Jim Crockett Promotions out there in North Carolina. I sent them through camp.
Okay.
And then out of that, Giant Baba approached me and Hawk, and we had an idea because the Japanese are very into family. He said, "What do we do this family tag team deal?" You know, so they had John and I and Mark and Hawk, my brother Mark and Hawk, you know, all tagging together, and they did a big family thing. You know, all the magazines were taking pictures of it and stuff, and I got over pretty big. So I said, "Here's the door, man. You know, Mike will tell you that door in Japan." It opens up this crack here. You got to be able to fit through that crack and take advantage of your opportunity. Oops. Must have been Hawk.
Damn Hawk.
Yeah, damn Hawk, right? No, but you know, and John took advantage of it. And, you know, Johnny was a smart guy, business-wise, for the office. Got in good with Mrs. Baba. Got in good with Giant Baba, and then he became Booker over there. It doesn't hurt when you're tagging with Stan Hansen or Dory Funk or Terry Funk either, man. You know what I mean? Or Steve Williams at the time. You know, Dr. Death Steve Williams. So all those guys were so hot, and Johnny was their partner. You know, wrestling with a bunch of the top Japanese boys. You know, so.
Mike, how about you getting into the business? And I also wanted to ask you, was fellas like the man sitting next to you like one of your influences? Like,
yeah, you know what? We were actually talking. Because we came in on the same flight. And I started when I was 14, actually. I found a wrestling school when I was 14 that would allow me to train. And it was just always something I wanted to do. But growing up at that time, I run a wrestling school in St. Louis, and I find everybody's much smaller in the sense of like their weight, you know, and the gym isn't as predominant. And I feel like it's just a shift change. So when I was 14, wanting to become a wrestler, the wrestlers I grew up watching were, you know, Animal and Rock and Hulk Hogan and Ultimate Warrior and all these guys that were larger than life, muscular. So to me, when I was thinking about being a pro wrestler, going to the gym was just as important as being in the ring training.
Yeah, sure.
And I find that now, you know, somebody at 15 wanting to become a wrestler is watching much smaller people wrestle, so like that isn't as predominant. So guys like Animal here were like a huge influence to me. One, because of the stature, and two, because my main goal when I started wrestling was actually to compete in Japan. Like that was the one thing I really wanted to accomplish.
That's your favorite place?
Yeah, you know, I had a very weird upbringing in the wrestling world, and what I mean by that is, in Canada, we only got WWF. That was it. So my friend got a satellite dish, and he got WCW for the first time. And it was Great American Bash 1992. And they had Hase and Hashimoto as a tag team in the tag team title tournament. And then Dr. Steve Williams and Terry Gordy. And to me, it was just looked so much different than what I was watching. You know, early 90s WWF, you had all these over-the-top characters. And when you watch something like Terry Gordy and like Dr. Steve Williams, you realize how much different the wrestling looks. And to me, it just looked like, oh my God, this is so much.
How much has Steve Williams rubbed off on you?
Huge.
Now that I'm thinking about it,
yeah, he was like one of my
years.
biggest influences. I mean, I grew up in mullet.
I can see it.
Doc was awesome, man. He was one of our better friends, man. We actually helped Doc when he got a little bit of issues going across the border with Halcyon. No, man, but my lawyer got him off like 3 times. Good thing to know a federal lawyer, right? But you're right, man. Doc was a great guy.
So like, just
talk about a stud.
Yeah, he was one of my favorites. So like, then in 1992, I would say 93-ish, we started getting orders of the magazine pamphlet showing us like Japanese wrestling tapes. So me and my friend that got the satellite dish would save our allowances, go to one of our parents, say, hey, we got this money, can you write a check for us to get VHS tapes? And then we would start collecting Japanese wrestling tapes in 93 when I was like 11 years old.
Cool.
So that was like my one main goal, is to, because for me, wrestling, I looked at it as a sport and like they were athletes. And that's where it was really presented like that in Japan. You know, going back and watching, you know, Animal and Hawk in Japan, and then watching guys like Kobashi and Kawada.
Did you have much wrestling when you were younger?
I did. Yeah, but again, it's in your blood. But the amateur wrestling also, it's funny, my love for pro wrestling started before that, because my school got wrestling. I was like, oh, I want to be a wrestler. I need to join this. And my coach actually said I was the most unorthodox wrestler he had ever taught, because I was just like, oh, I know this. Like, a head and arm throw, that's just a headlock takeover. I've watched guys do that on TV all the time. Sure. And I was actually like went undefeated for the years that I did wrestle, but then when I joined a pro wrestling school at such young age, my coach was like, oh, that stuff's not real. You got to pick one or the other. I was like, well, see ya. Like, I don't want to do this. I only did this because I wanted to do that. Sure. But yeah, you know, a lot of that was influences, and that's why I really focus on the gym so much now, is because of guys like Animal that were my influence.
You started at 14, I believe, right? Yeah. How does that translate? I mean, aren't you a nervous wreck? Because you're wrestling with these older guys, and I'm sure it's pretty territorial. Everybody.
So the original like training was a 2-week summer camp, and then I joined the school after. So it was a 2-week summer camp, and that camp was a lot of kids my age or a little bit older. But truthfully, because of the love I had for it, I kind of took to it like a fish to water. I wasn't nervous. I wasn't anything. I caught on to things really quick. Obviously, at 14 in the school that wasn't a very good training school, I wasn't going to become a star just training there. But I was far in advance people that were even in the school before that 2-week camp. And that was just, I think, because I loved it so much and paid attention.
Yeah, well, the watching, right?
Yeah, and some people watch things differently. Like, if you go back and look at school until I realized how important it was, you know, you'd be like, what is this guy doing? But then with wrestling, I would analyze everything. So going into that training, it was just natural to me. It's like, okay, here's a body slam. Oh, you don't need to show me a body slam. I know how to do a body slam because I've watched it since I was born, pretty much. I mean, I'm a December baby, so December 13th is my birthday. my first Christmas pictures are me opening up the old LGN action figures. Because at that time, all my cousins who were older, that was kind of what they were into. So my family was just like, well, we'll get them wrestling stuff because everybody else in the family likes wrestling stuff. And then they grew out of it. I got all their hand-me-downs. So, I mean, I can't remember a time where I didn't tell anybody that could listen that I was going to be a pro wrestler when I grew up.
It's kind of strange in a way, man. There's kind of like wrestlers are a different breed. And I'm sure you guys heard that before. They're just a breed.
Well, we've seen that.
Yeah, well, you know firsthand, right? But I mean, though, you got to have a certain amount of confidence.
You better, yeah.
And to get in this business, and you better not be shy in any way because guys will set you, and you better not be conceived either because guys will put you in place in a minute.
When you guys were breaking in, you guys were both bigger than most of the guys, right?
We were bigger than everybody, but the thing was,
people
though,
afraid to work with you even from the beginning?
Yeah, some of the older guys were. We've had guys like the Fantastics that were Tommy Rogers and who had Terry Taylor at the time, right?
Oh, your boy
would freaking like run the other way, and they refused to wrestle us in Atlanta because these guys are killing everybody. But once they got in the ring, once they got in the ring with us, they saw, God dang, these guys can freaking work.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah, but you guys worked stiff from what I read, right? You used to beat the shit out of some people.
But they had job guys on TV that they were paid extra money on George Champion. No, they were paid extra money on George Champion, and Ole Anderson came in and said, "Listen,
you're gonna get
the
killed."
wrestling business was let me tell you, the wrestling business was in the toilet.
Okay.
It needed something to do it, and we just happened to be two guys that were found in a bar that could, that can cut a promo. So they said, listen, and these guys are going to be rough with you. Just go with, a clothesline's coming, go with it and kick.
Yeah.
So you don't kill yourself, and, or they don't kill you. Because we were really swinging them,
Yeah.
But we were stiff because, we didn't know really what we were doing. It was like every time you go into a locker room, it's like going to school. You get in a ring in a different arena, it's like going to school, right? You have your wrestling school, then you keep going to school for the rest of your career because you got to learn how to wrestle and deal with everybody different, right? So, I mean, that's what was different about us. And, you got to have that love for business. Like he said, man, once we got our first opportunity, we were at the AWA, and Vern Gagne got us our first deal for All Japan. We were like, oh, yeah. Because we heard so much good things about All Japan. And the Japanese boys at the time, they would beat the dog crap out of you. If you weren't in there to protect yourself, they were going to take advantage of you.
Right.
We said, no, they're not. And we put a stop to that immediately. And once you set that tone, everything's cake after that. But we had to wrestle Gordy a bunch of times over there, and Doc, and, we had to deal with the Freebirds in the U.S. a lot. And, Terry Gordy can go. He was a machine. Doc can go. Doc was a 4-time All-American in wrestling and football for Oklahoma. I mean, that's a stud right there, right? So, but yeah, man, it's we were told at the time in the business, you guys have got to we got to try to make some kind of impact. And you got to imagine the first time we walked into the locker room on TBS at Turner Broadcasting, where you have the NWA show, right? I'm looking and I'm seeing Sergeant Slaughter and Tito Santana and Paul Orndorff and Tommy Rich and Dusty Rhodes and Ric Flair. I'm going, oh my God! I went there like a church mouse, brother. I didn't say shit. I don't like this, like quiet. And Hawk and I are going, and Ole Anderson walks up to us and goes, "Here's your belt. Here's your belt. Don't lose it."
Wow.
I said, what? We don't even know how to do a cohesive match together yet. But that helped us because we did the street fight. Although we were, we had to do some weird things and collecting money, and so we had I won't get into that. But when we were younger,
why not?
But the street fighting part was easy for us, right? Trying to work that was another thing, and we could work it with all the other top guys. They found out we could work that, so then all the top guys were never afraid to work with us. Now, were there some times where they didn't want to give up the reins because here's some new guys coming in? Right. Oh, absolutely. Mr. Wrestling number 1, Mr. Wrestling number 2, even Tommy Rich and those guys, they were kind of, hey, we don't want to give up our ground right now. Crusher, the Bruiser, they were like that with us too.
So, who jumps in and says, "Look, these guys are the future of the business. You're going to sell and you're going to finish."
No one really jumps in. It happens in the ring.
Really? The freight train just
because we here we go. Point in fact, we're in Milwaukee. Crusher and Bruiser were, they're like the freaking gods. Hawk and I come down the Black Sabbath Iron Man. They come down to the Beer Barrel Polka.
Yeah, right.
And I'm standing in the ring. I said, "Is this really happening? Are we really in the ring to it?" I said, "Do you want to dance, Hawk?" We were laughing with each other. The polka's playing, but it was like the changing of the guard. The first thing we did, gut shot and press slam.
Right.
Match was over.
Bye-bye.
Road Warriors were made because we just did it. Two guys that never left their feet.
Right.
Two of the greatest guys I will love to the day I die, the Funks.
Okay.
And I say that in a very manly way, not but because we were in Kirk Hall, who he's wrestled a bunch of times, right?
Oh yeah.
Freaking packed to the rafters with Japanese fans. They put us over at Kirk Hall our first time in Japan. The Funks were gods in Japan. Dory still goes over there and does appearances. Terry doesn't care to go over there anymore, but Dory does. That was a big thing. We never forgot that, and we were indebted to them for the rest of our career because they made us.
Right.
And you don't forget that. And that's the message I try to explain to a lot of young guys getting into business. You got to know your lineage of this business. We knew the guys that paved the way for us and appreciate it. There's a lot of people, and he'll tell you going through his camp right now, that don't know jack about wrestling because they see it on TV. They don't know. They don't even know who the Road Warriors were. Oh, really?
Oh, come on,
bro. Go look, Google tag team or something. But they don't know. Which is surprising to me. Yeah. That's one thing. If I have anything out there to teach anybody who wants to go anything from wrestling schools in the future, know the lineage, know the people that paved the way.
Right.
Because that road getting into somewhere is a lot easier if you already know how to respect somebody.
Well, just like Mike was saying, he's watching tapes and he's learning. So
you're running nuts, but it's nuts to think of this way. Like he's saying, people don't know the lineage. I had to look in a magazine, write a letter to another company to send me a catalog, to then send a check to get a VHS tape in the mail. Now it's at their fingertips and they don't know the history. It drives me nuts.
Now you're running
How do you not know it?
I know. It's so much easier.
Well, you're running a school, and today's wrestling, honestly, 150 pounders, 160 pounders, you're still in the game too, twice the size of these guys. But how do you stay positive, right? Because you got people just looking.
I understand, and don't get me wrong, I don't care if somebody's 150 or 160 pounds. All I care about personally is if they look like an athlete. Mm-hmm. Because there's 150, there's 160 pounder that plays that is an MMA fighter, and they still look like a badass, right? So look like some kind of athlete. You know what I mean? Like if you are 160 pounds and do a bunch of flips, but you don't look like a gymnast because they're all shredded, then why are you 160 pounds doing flips?
Hey, what's your take on bigger guys who are not necessarily cut but can wrestle their ass off like a Kevin Owens?
See, and personally, there are few and far between. But if you can wrestle your ass off, that's a different thing.
Right.
But then there's people, of course, but there's also people who are in that shape. But there are people that are in that shape that aren't at the level of them. Right. That also try to be like, well, I can be in this shape and I can do this because of him and them. But those are two very special people, right? Not only, Samoa Joe and Kevin Owens might not be your typical pro wrestler, but still you look at them and they look like they can do some damage.
Yeah, they look like they're going to beat your ass.
That's what I mean. So that's
human
a different
beings can relate to them. That's the whole thing is getting rid of.
Right.
One thing Hawk and I were able to do, we learned this a lot from Paul Ellering, right? He was a real shoot manager. We were able almost through 2.5 decades change with the times. If you can, our gimmick was so far ahead of this time, it would still be hot today. Because if Hawk were alive, because of it was just so far ahead with the face paint and the spiked shoulder pads, and look at Kiss, they're still having a 15-year retirement tour. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so we were, but there's very few rare things in this business like that. But if you're able to change your times, like we were talking the other this morning, while we were standing at the airport waiting, you got guys like, God bless him, Ricochet, great athlete. Mm-hmm. 15,000 flying head scissors in a match. Mm-hmm. I said on my podcast one time, why do you do 15 of them? Why not just do a few of them when the timing's right, or do a dive over the top rope and do the...
Or how about when a finisher's a finisher? It's like everybody kicks out of every finisher
do the triple Lindy flip off the top rope onto the floor when it means something. Don't do it for 15 high spots. They are doing things now. It's almost like monkey see, monkey do in the business. They do it because it's a hot thing right now. They act like it's brand new. You know what? Go Google a tape from 25 years ago on a WWF. You'll see me dive over the top rope onto the freaking, I forget who it was, Earthquake and Typhoon on the floor. I was 320 pounds doing it, not 150 pounds doing it.
Yeah, but Animal, don't you think it's today's audience that's a problem too?
This is what I was going to counter with.
Yeah, right.
As much as it would be great if we could bring back some of the older strategies of pro wrestling, but I also feel it's a part and parcel thing. And within today's time, you got to understand that we don't. So, for instance, I remember talking to D'Lo because he is an agent at Impact, and I said, "Hey, you guys whipped each other off a lot. Why?" And they said, "Well, we wanted to keep it moving because people could turn the channel to WCW," and that made sense to me. But now we're not fighting that; we're fighting this.
Yeah.
So we have 200, 300, 500, how many ever people in the audience, and if we don't keep the action exciting, well, what happened today in the football game? What happened yesterday in the basketball game? Oh, who's got a new picture on Instagram? Who's on Twitter?
I think what you're saying, it's not must-see TV anymore, right? It's like I'll catch it whenever I want to catch it.
But even at a live show is what I'm saying. At a live show, we're fighting so much stuff, and to be honest, we're in a world more so than ever that you need instant gratification, and because of all the technology we have. So as much as some styles aren't necessarily what I enjoy, I understand the reason for that, because you got to keep people's attention, and it's very difficult. Like I know I have a 4-year-old son at home. It's hard to get his attention away. Like, hey, you're doing this, get your attention here, and then I finally get his attention. It's just there's always something that can.
But isn't it also a problem that they're not making stars anymore? Like the WWE is about the company, which makes sense, right? You don't want to build an Animal anymore because Animal can go somewhere else. Right? It can hold you up.
I don't think it's sustaining. I don't think creating one star is sustaining anymore because right now we're in a time where people get injured more often because of the high risk, because of stricter protocols and everything. People are getting hurt more. They need more time off to recuperate. If you make one star and they have to take time off, it's not as decent as if the company is a brand.
Sure.
So as much as think about it this way. NBA needs to be NBA for great basketball players, and each market's going to have a great team, but the sport of basketball is what they really need to focus. That's why they start moving into countries like Japan and all this stuff. They're trying to go out there to make it more marketable for other places.
Well, the marketing is
so the
changed,
NBA is a brand rather than just, Michael Jordan's retired years ago. And as much as they try to put LeBron as that one top star, there's always going to be people like, I don't like LeBron, I like this guy. But Michael Jordan was kind of one of those worldly renowned basketball players, so he could be the star. And I just feel like everything has changed, and I really think it's just society is everything is at your fingertips, so you can lose that distraction. I mean, that's every sport. Growing up, if you liked hockey, Wayne Gretzky was your guy. You could like whoever played on your team, but everybody looked up to Wayne Gretzky. Right. You like basketball, everybody looked up to Michael Jordan. Now there's debates. Like there wasn't really debates when Michael Jordan was playing. There wasn't debates when Wayne Gretzky was playing. So now there's all these debates. Who's the best basketball player? Who's the best hockey player? Who's the best this?
Everybody's an expert.
Yes, and that's why I think we're fighting the curve.
You're right.
We're fighting the curve of so much, so we have to make one thing a brand. And obviously there has to be stars who are greater than the others to get into new markets and to get people buying merchandise and all that kind of stuff. But as a whole, I think that's a survival mode thing, is making the brand of every wrestling promotion more important than any one star. Because one, you never know when a star wants to quit. You never know when a star gets hurt. You never know any of that. And it just happens.
But the wrestling business now is better for the guys and girls in it.
Yeah.
On the fact that if you could build 10 stars instead of 2, that's better for you drawing wise, right? Now they've gotten to the point where they just put the name Impact or WWE, SmackDown on or AEW on there. Bam, they don't even have to list who's there. They do it and they just put the name of the company on there now, and they think it's going to sell out and draw houses. Now, a lot of times it does, sometimes it doesn't. You're never going to see again stars like an Andre or a Hogan, or they used to compare us to the Hogan and tag teams. You're never going to see guys that have that much clout in the business again that could pretty much control their own destiny. I mean, we were the first guys to get guaranteed contracts in this business, right? I mean, and we weren't pricks about it, but we did play one company against the other because, one company wanted us to come here, and we said, hey, we already got a guarantee here. You want to do that? Well, we'll give you opportunity here. Well, I'm sorry. Thanks for the opportunity, but I'm taking a guarantee. And then next thing you know, next time you go back, you got a guarantee.
You clearly looked up to the legends as you were coming up. So let me ask you, when does the light bulb go off on the day that you look in the mirror and go, wait a minute, I am one now? F this. I want what I want.
I do that, but here's the thing. I get asked to go out every weekend for an appearance. We must have did something right where people still want to see me and take my picture.
Oh, absolutely.
Of course, I'm in the age of I bring my spike shoulder pads with me. I let the fans put them on for the photos. Let them be a member of the LOD for a picture, you know what I mean? And I paint up, and as long as I can still, I'm freaking 285 now. As long as I can stay and work out and look a little bit like Animal, I'm okay to the fan. And then if I need be, I can get back in the ring. I wasn't banged up. Of course, I've had 14 surgeries, broken neck, the whole thing in this business. But we were in the age of, like you were saying, Mike, guys get 3-4 months off for an injury. Not when we were doing it, bro. The show must go on type thing. Tape it up. Our first scaffold match, we just came back from, speaking of Japan, we were wrestling Choshu and Tendu in Tokyo Dome, and Hawk took a backdrop the wrong way and broke his leg. And I had to tape up his ankle 3 days later to go up on a scaffold because we were in the main event in a scaffold. What are you going to say? Nah, man, we don't feel like showing up.
How'd you handle that scaffold match? That thing is like the scariest thing I've ever watched.
It was the worst thing I think I've ever been in my life. I was like Magilla Gorilla up there. I was like 320. I was 320. Hawk was 275 on a 3-foot wide fireman scaffold.
Man.
That you ever seen a fireman scaffold? It's got all these little it's got all these little hooks in it, so the fireman's boots don't slip when they get wet. So when you fell on your chest like this, you had like 50,000 little cut holes in your body, right?
Yeah.
Oh, and we were up there in the Midnight Express. God bless those guys, man. They were great guys to be up there with. I wouldn't want to have been up there with anybody else.
Who was your favorite team to work with ever? Was it?
The Horsemen were great, man. Arn and Tully were awesome. But I can't really pick out one because I've been blessed in this business, man. I've had an opportunity to work main events for freaking 25 years.
How about a favorite Road Warriors match?
I was, I'm going to Allentown Sunday, and I was thinking of Allentown. I was thinking of the Nasty Boys when Hawk and I during SummerSlam beat the Nasty Boys for the WWF Championships.
Okay,
was the last of the big 3 belts that you could win.
Right.
That Madison Square Garden went freaking nuts. I mean, I'm talking a 15-minute LOD. People thought it was freaking a shoot. Because we treated that. I mean, keep in mind, it was a street fight. We beat the dog crap out of each other. Anything and everything that was underneath the ring, we took and we beat, no tables or nothing like that. But other stuff we could find, like wrenches and stuff like that, we did everything we can. And it was a great match. That was a great moment. Like any of the matches in the Tokyo Dome were always great moments, man, or the Osaka Dome or anything over in Japan. I'm like Mike, man. Japan was my favorite place to work.
Okay.
But my favorite team to work against in the States was probably, Arn Anderson, Tully Blanchard, the Four Horsemen. They knew how to make Hawk and I look better than we could even make ourselves look. Mm. And they would fly around for us, but then, man, when we got hurt, they were like a couple of freaking pit bulls on our injury, and until we came back out of it, But those kind of matches are fun because you learn the psychology so good. And your mind's just going, I see why he did that. And, I see why he wants me to do this. And you start learning the business. And I think, Mike, I don't know if you agree, that's what's kind of missing in our business today. In these camps, and for whatever company, whether it's AEW, WW, my philosophy is, how can you teach someone to get to the Super Bowl if you've not been to the Super Bowl?
Right. That's a good point.
If you've not played the Super Bowl, coached it or whatever. So that's why I say, man, you need to get some of these guys from my era backstage teaching some of these guys how to do the psychology of you can still do all the high flying crap then you want to do it, but there still has to be a rhyme or reason why you're doing something.
There's got to be a story.
Right. The fans love stories. I think that's where we lost the fans a little bit in the wrestling business for a while because it was just hot shot,
kick out,
no story, kick out, 50,000 kickouts, right? No stories. You have now they're starting to go back to storylines. Fans like to get emotionally invested, then they will get financially invested.
And speaking of storylines, Mike has been going up against Miss Tessa Blanchard. This has brought a lot of attention to you. How do you feel this will play out in the long run? And do you have aspirations to get to Vince?
You know, the Tessa stuff I think is amazing because she's just an amazing wrestler. Not as a female wrestler, just as a wrestler.
Yeah.
And I think the plus side of Impact is they're really willing to do something with her that other companies aren't willing to.
This is true.
So I think that's going to put different eyes on Impact. And especially because now that we moved to Access, we have a better TV deal. More people are going to be able to see us. We are definitely offering something that AEW has full out said they're not going to do intergender wrestling.
When you were approached with this, what was your reaction?
Well, I haven't got to wrestle her yet. There have been talks of it. And now she's going up with Sammy coming up for the pay-per-view in Dallas.
Right.
But when it was brought up and they said they might have me and her do some stuff, I said, that's awesome because she's an amazing wrestler.
Right.
And the biggest thing, as I said, is I don't think anybody else in the wrestling landscape is going to go full throttle with how they've done it with her, and which I think is really good. One, for wrestling as a whole, and two, for society. And she's just, as I said, you can't say she's a great women's wrestler. She's just a great wrestler. She's awesome out there. She really is motivated. We go on the road a lot. We have our crew that go to the gym, and she's one of them that is not missing the gym and not missing all that kind of stuff. So she really takes everything super serious. And she has a chip on her shoulder in the sense of, yes, I'm a Blanchard, but I don't want that to be why I succeed. So she's that much better because she pushes herself to be at the top without having to be a Blanchard, which I admire hugely because, we've seen in sports, whether it be wrestling or movies or basketball or anything, that a lot of people will have that last name that's known, and they kind of take the easy route because of that last name. And she's the exact opposite, which is amazing.
Right. I think she's right on par with Charlotte.
100%.
I mean,
100%.
I can't wait to see those two someday.
Yeah.
I know Vince must be thinking about this.
I'm sure Vince has probably been calling it.
Oh, that would be beautiful.
I tell you what, when I first heard of Tessa going against some of the guys, and I'll be real quite honest with you, I'm old school in the sense that I think girls should wrestle girls and guys should wrestle guys. Okay, I'm not against her wrestling, working with Mike or anything, because she's proven that she can. I just hope they don't make it a long-term thing where she's got to listen.
Right.
Look at him.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
I don't want to come off. It's so unbelievable.
My point exactly.
My
point exactly is Nyla Rose.
Yeah,
that's a freaking man.
Yeah,
that's a freaking man. Yeah. He should beat the dog crap out of.
But by the way, they let a 105 or 85-pound woman beat her. Which made no sense to me.
No. But my point.
Were you watching AEW?
I tried to pay attention to it.
But like Mike said, though, with society, you see it all the time, and I'm so happy with this that with all the abuse that's going on in our society and everything else, it's awesome to see women standing up for themselves and fighting.
Oh, sure.
And she's great representation of that part of it, right? Sure. So, because you see it all the time, and when you're right, with the age of this, the phone and everything, you see it. It's more prevalent now. So in today's, it wouldn't have worked 20 years ago. Today it works, right? I don't know if you're going to be able to work it to a freaking 3-year program, but it will work for the short term here, because it'll give him credibility because he's not wrestling a chump female. Because if you remember, back in the day, there was when kickboxing was really hot. The guy that refs most of the MMA fights here, Big Mike, what's his name? Big John. John, what's his name?
McCarthy.
John McCarthy. Yeah, John McCarthy. They had him over there doing kickboxing stuff with the top female. Man, he knocked that female out in 2 seconds.
Sure.
2 seconds.
Doink.
But in our business, you can put the illusion, I'm going to overpower with my man stuff, but one slip up, here she comes with the bam, 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 And the fans are going, holy crap, look at that. And then it becomes interesting, right? Possibly. You're right, man. You know, but it's you know, I just don't think it's gonna. It won't be something you could do all the time. Mm-hmm. Like I hate mixed tags. Hate them with a passion. Hate them with a passion. Not believable. Can't tell a story. Can't do anything with a mixed tag. Right. Because it's always the guy against the guy and the girl against the girl. You know, and it's just kind of it's a TV time filler.
Look, even Japan does this with the 8-man tags over and over and over with no end result. There's no storyline here. Come
on. That's why I left Japan.
Yeah, stop. Oh, by the way, while I have you here, former Ring of Honor world champion, I got to ask you, what's your take on ACH?
You know what? As a wrestler, I love him to death. We had our differences for other reasons outside of wrestling. Not that we hated each other, but we clashed. We're two different personalities. No, not at all. I think he's as I said, a great guy. There was just certain things we clashed on. Okay. Now his outrage about the T-shirt, I understand why that would upset him, upset other people of color. I get all that.
This T-shirt controversy with the
WWE?
Okay.
But so I understand the racial undertones that shirt provided.
I heard about that.
I agree that he should have spoke up.
Okay.
Maybe not.
How about
publicly?
Privately,
that's what I mean. Maybe I'm not. I don't think business stuff should be handled publicly. Right. But that's personally, you know. If he felt that was the only way to listen, maybe, I don't know the full story, maybe he did say something to them in private and it was just dismissed. Right. So the only way he could bring light to it is publicly. Right. Maybe, I don't know.
Right. Did that cat from WWE just quit?
Yeah. And you know what, I just
hope... He went about it totally the wrong way.
Now
I know what you're talking about. I just hope... I thought he had a T-shirt problem.
No. I just hope, I hope that it's solely a work thing. I hope there's nothing else going on. You know, as I said, we had some clashes. We had some clashes just because of our personalities, but I still respect him. I still like him. You know, if I still consider him a friend. If he called me tomorrow and needed a favor, I would be there for him. Okay. But I hope that it only has to do with professional stuff. I just hope there's nothing else wrong, because to react that way, it worries me that maybe something else is
honestly
bothering
I thought it was
him.
a work at first.
It might not. Listen, don't count the card, man. It may be a work.
Yeah, you never know. Yeah,
you never know in this business, man. It may be a work.
AEW already said that they're not going to touch him. They're like, we're not touching them.
That's the problem with going publicly, because if you're an issue for one place, why wouldn't you be an issue? And that's why I don't think going publicly is good, because in this day and age, you can start a firestorm over something that. Look, and again, not that this is minor. I don't want to downplay that, you know, to him and to the other, you know, black wrestlers that had an issue with it. I understand. I'm just saying, there's other situations like that are much minor for other people that they bring it publicly, and it becomes this big issue. So if you're going to do that every time there's an issue, why would a company want that liability? Right. That's a big
don't want that negative press.
And put it where it belongs, right? The head of marketing, whoever else was in charge of that, they made a mistake, they let it go through, it ended up looking bad. Handle it there.
And again, but as I said, we don't know. Maybe he did reach out privately and it was just dismissed.
I think I heard that he saw the gray and the blue shirt but didn't see the black shirt. And, you know, again, stupidity watching that go out, but, you know, there's worse things that happen. So,
you know, man, here's the thing, man. In our society, there is not one person who has not done or said something stupid, made a mistake, even in the marketing department or whatever, right? So, I mean, but you're in the age, of the millennial age, with the millennials that just like, oh my! No, seriously, man. That's
JJ's got a question, but you're going back to a point where everybody's got a phone, everybody's got a voice, everybody thinks they could say everything, everybody's got a television show. Look, hi everybody. JJ.
I just wanted to say, you know, I've done over 113 themes for WWF, WWE, and WCW, and I want to tell people can tell, you know, a lot of people that don't understand about the wrestling business. I've been close to all these guys my whole adult life. I wrote the music for Hawk and Animal, and Jimmy Hart's my partner, and he wrote lyrics and approved and made suggestions. But anybody that's sitting out there watching this show and says, you know, those wrestlers, they're just a bunch of big dumb guys. This dialogue that you hear right here, just heard, proves that these guys are the furthest thing in the world from big dumb guys. Very intelligent people and very knowledgeable. and very specially talented, more than you would ever imagine. You've got to be really smart to be a wrestler, a great wrestler.
Absolutely.
Thanks, man.
Amen.
Yeah, man. When they had us put Hawk did the What a Rush at one time on an interview. Then he says, "Hey, can we throw it on the front of the music you wrote for us?" Right?
Well, I went backstage and got Vince to do it. That's Vince that's doing it on the actual recording.
Oh, so you knew that too? You knew that was Vince that did "Oh What a Rush"?
No, we knew something was going on because Hawk was at the curtain and they came to us last minute and they said, "Hey, can you do the Oh What a Rush before you go out to the ring?" And Hawk and I were pretty good at being Johnny on the spot. We kind of kid around a lot, but we were called the One Cut Kids. If we had 100 at the time, cable stations to do TV promos for, we never messed up one, man. We just was knock them out in a
Those
couple.
local promos are a
Oh,
pain.
brother, pain in the ass. But we would knock them out and not have an issue. So when it came time on a live TV, Hawk says, "Do All What a Rush," and then they're going to kick in his music in the truck. Hawk and everyone went, "What a Rush," and bam, the music played at the right time. I still use that when I go and do personal appearances.
Really?
That same thing, the same riff, everything, man. I use it all because, Hawk and I were a little different, though. We already had owned Road Warriors and Legion of Doom name and everything else before we even went there. So, no one paid for our face paint or our shoulder pads or our gear. We paid for everything. You know what I mean? But when these guys did it, and of course Jimmy and us have been friends for, 35 years. And, I know Jimmy Hart, great guy, good human being, man. And he, "Hey, Animal Dog, I got this idea for you. It's going to be great."
People would ask me, they would say, "McGuire, does Hawk and Animal like the theme?" I said, "Brother, I'm not asking them a damn question.
No,
They'll
right.
squash me if they don't like it."
No, but it did. But these guys knew how to play a music that fit our character.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
They can know the beat. They know our stuff was more heavy metal bass type stuff, and they knew that anything with heavy bass in it was going to be good for us going to the ring. And you throw a lot of watch in front of it, you didn't even need to have no words with it.
Does Animal like heavy metal in real life?
Oh yeah, man.
Nice. Let's talk some Iron Maiden.
I was a Led Zeppelin, Metallica guy, and,
Metallica, Sabbath,
man.
little Sabbath.
man.
Nice.
That's where one day we were sitting there
Nice.
and you coming out of doing one of our tours in the very beginning. We were in a Red Roof Inn and we got in the car and you would go eat at a Bob Evans or something. We were in Columbus, Ohio, and all of a sudden you hear on the radio, "Down!" I looked over at Hawk. He looked at me. I said, "Brother, this has got to be our music right here."
Song.
And we start saying, "Hey," we went to Ole. We said, "Hey, man, we got an idea.
Right.
Let's throw this music. You guys are getting to the age of doing music. Let's throw music in front of us."
Right.
Until he wanted $10,000 of copyright, and so we said,
Then
Sharon.
Speaking of music, you were in the AWA. First, I want to know how you felt about working for Vern, but then two, how was it working with the Freebirds? Did you feel like that worked out? Because I got to tell you, when you went there and they tried to build that feud, we're WWE guys or WWF guys, Northeast, but I was totally sold on that. Right, I was really excited for that to happen, but just it didn't seem to click like I thought.
You
it
know,
would.
it didn't have the flavor you wanted to have. Listen, I loved working with the Freebirds, with Michael Hayes and Terry Gordy, and you had Buddy on the outside. When we were at the NWA, we would do stuff like realization stuff that the Southern people related to. Like they handcuffed me to the rope inside of a cage one time in Marietta, Georgia, and they beat the dog crap out of Hawk. And I'm trying to fight, and I'm pulling, and I'm, but I think it was more being able to have me selling like that to my partners getting his rear end kicked, that Vern didn't take the time to do those. There are no little things in our business. Everything is a big thing, right? So they didn't let us do that against the Freebirds in the AWA. They tried to hotshot it by letting the Freebirds paint up one time. We wrestled at Comiskey Park in between a doubleheader for a baseball game, and people just kind of went farted. I mean, it looked cool. They had the red, white, and blue Union Jacks on their, Southern Union Jacks on their face, and it looked great. But they didn't do any heat to get us the heat, And we did a big event with them, Wrestle Rock. Remember Vern did the Wrestle Rock? They had like 40,000 people at the Minneapolis.
Rock and roll bump some off.
He was a piece of work. Let me tell you.
Yeah, we've heard he's a piece of something else
Yeah,
now. That's a whole other story.
Right. You might see Buck underneath your shoes somewhere.
Hide the lotion in the basket.
Oh my God,
that's really bad.
No, but man,
oh my God.
But Vern was an interesting cat. Vern, it was my way or the highway. Vern was
that kind of cost him.
Really, well, it did cost him
in the end.
If Vern could have just grew at the times, brother. Imagine he's got Eddie Einhorn in his back pocket, who owned all college football networks. We're on ESPN. We're getting a free hotel at the Showboat. We're recording our TVs right in the hotel. Yeah. And on ESPN, it was #1 rated station was AWA Wrestling.
What happened?
Bro, he just lost it.
Oops.
The A was.
I don't know how. They were loaded. At one point, that roster was loaded.
He wouldn't sign anybody to guaranteed contracts.
Right. He wanted to cut Hogan on the T-shirts.
Yep. He wouldn't
That's
adjust.
really stupid.
He wouldn't adjust to people's growth in the business or ideas. It all had to be his ideas.
Right.
And it just got to be to a point, man, and say, listen, man, this is like spinning wheels and not getting there. They had great guys that come through. There are guys, that weren't really nationally known, like the Long Riders, Scott and Bill Irwin, were freaking great. I mean, Hawk and I wrestled Jerry Blackwell and Sergeant Slaughter was a freaking great match.
Wow.
Jerry Blackwell is one of the guys you're talking about. Big, dumpy, freaking Stone Mountain, Georgia guy.
Yeah,
but was believable. He could hit you in the face with a drop kick.
Yep.
At 450 pounds. So and the way we sold for him, it made people going, "Oh, holy crap, they're down." And that kind of mystique, Vern he just lost it, man. I don't know how he let it slip through his fingers. And a lot of it, too, was, you had Greg, his son, running a lot of things back there, and Greg kind of was like,
good old tennis legs.
My dad's company, type of thing. You got to listen to me. So that's where that got kind of screwed up, man. But the Freebirds and the Rude, I mean, we drew great money in the NWA, drew a little bit of money in the AWA, but it just was. I don't know what. You're right, man. That flavor was gone. There was something a little missing.
As a fan, being a Freebird fan, Road Warrior fan, seeing that coming, because that and then it just didn't have it. Just I was looking almost like Von Erich-ish.
Yeah, man.
Freebird-ish.
Because people put us together, and Terry Gordy and I would come in there and do that first high spot, and we were like two freaking freight trains hitting each other, and it had all the makings of doing something, but it fizzled out for whatever reason.
So WWE wins the entire battle. So you're going. Is it true that was the ultimate goal to get to New York? And then for you, Mike, is that your ultimate goal for your career?
To get to New York.
We say New York, but it's not New York anymore.
Vince.
There's different reasons I would want to go there. Mainly, I feel that, especially with the landscape now, you hear that they're offering people a lot more money so they don't go elsewhere. Stability for my family would be one, but as a whole, that was really never my main goal. Like, my number one goal was Japan. That was what I wanted. And then along the way, you would get other goals. So I started training in 2001, had my first match in 2002, and then one of my goals was I want to be a Ring of Honor World Champion.
Bingo.
So like those little goals I would pick aside, but really the end result was I wanted to go to Japan. And now that I've done that and leaving New Japan, I've gotten a lot of opportunities. I went over for Big Japan, now I'm going over for Noah. I have all the other companies hit me up. I feel like if I ever had the opportunity to go, to Vince, I would definitely go there, because after I know I would still kind of have that Japanese thing that I could go back to. I've got my name over there now. I went over in the summer for Big Japan. They had their biggest crowd in Korakuen since 2010. We made record numbers for t-shirt sales, all that kind of stuff. So now that I've got that kind of foot in Japan where I can go over there and I'll be popular and people want to see me and the companies want me over there, now I could see the realization of going to Vince, a little bit easier. But really, man, I wrestle because I love it. I wrestle because I enjoy it. And I've known so many people that end up having this distaste for wrestling going there that it almost puts you off in the same token, because I'm having the time of my life right now. Like I said, there's guys I wanted to wrestle in Japan where I could literally just call the Japanese company now, like, hey, I really want to wrestle so-and-so. Do you want to bring me over? Of course, we'd love to bring you over. And Impact's going great right now. Like, I just finished up wrestling Eddie Edwards on TV, and I think we're going to start doing something together, and he's one of my favorite people to wrestle, so I'm just having a great time, and it's showing that love for wrestling, which is why I do this. My life is eclipsed by wrestling. My wife's a former wrestler. I teach my class twice a week. I wrestle 3 times a week, so I have 2 days that wrestling aren't, at the forefront, but still I'm at the gym doing my cardio. On my phone is wrestling. So I love this, and I want to do it to where the passion is still there to do it. So I don't ever want to get put in a position where that passion starts fading. We were talking about those 8-man tags I do in Japan all the time. Not that my passion was dwindling, but I felt like my creativeness as a pro wrestler has always come from what I do in the ring, because when I went to Ring of Honor, they put a manager with me. They didn't want me to talk. And then when I became champion, they're like, talking sound bites, and we use it for packages. I'm like, listen, I can talk. Then I go to Japan, and speaking easy English, because the Japanese crowd can only understand easy English. And our translators can only translate so much. So now I'm also getting that freedom to be able to show people I can talk and everything. So it's just like, now I'm in that time where I'm really loving absolutely every aspect of wrestling I do. I love being able to go to the show tonight and wrestle somebody I've never wrestled before and see how good of a match I can have with them. And then go to Impact TV tapings and wrestle guys like Eddie Edwards and Brian Cage or Tessa, some of the best wrestlers in the world. And then go to Japan and love the country, love the food, love the wrestling over there. I just said I'm just enjoying myself with everything I do right now, that as much as it might be an end result to go to Vince, I'm enjoying the ride right now, and I want to keep doing that. As long as there's food on the table and clothes on my kids' back, I'm pretty happy.
Yeah, he's going to be a rarity. He's a rarity in the business today, because he's a big guy that can do great things, good things, right? So therefore he's marketable to go, and I'm sure probably someday he will get the WWE. For us, it was back when the NWA was hot. We got called up, and we went to Greenwich, Connecticut, and went to Vince's house and had lunch with he and his. He had a Chinese maid there.
Vince chewed food in front of you?
Bro,
I heard Vince doesn't.
He ate food.
I heard Vince doesn't eat in front of people.
In front of us. He made some.
I think I threw Mike off with that one.
Bro, he made healthy chicken fried rice and sushi and everything at his house.
Is
right?
this true that he drenches his steak with ketchup?
See? He knows that he's a strange bird.
Is it true?
I've heard that.
That is true.
Before the show.
Oh, you've seen him eat too?
Wow. Kevin Dunn sat there and ate with him, but Jimmy Hart says, McGuire, don't look at him when they're eating.
Right. He's got
Vince's house out there in Connecticut, right? You pull up to there, and you had 2 Great Danes at the time. 2 big Great Danes were laying there sleeping, and we go in there and we got
Accent smash.
Right. We got to talking, and that was one of the times where we had the guaranteed contract by the NWA already in our hands, and we went there with Vince, and he said, well, all I can do is offer you opportunity here. And I said, yeah, but Vince, opportunity. I said, we got a guaranteed contract here. We want to come here. Because at the time, it was the last of the big 3 to win.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And we knew we were so red hot, we knew we were going to get a great push anyway. Not that we needed it, but if we could make money. Now, you're right, today, marketing and everything is so much different with sponsorships. It doesn't really matter if a guy, that's why you won't see a guy get like we were, because they don't need to.
Right.
You got freaking Cheerios paying you $10 million or $20 million. You got every company doing that. You don't need it. You got Saudi Arabia's paying them how many millions of dollars to do 5 or 6 shows, whatever it is. But, when you had Hawk and I, and so we're sitting there, and we did the deal, and, Vince got up and left the room one day, and of course, he left the marketing reports on the desk. And we looked, we knew it was on purpose. We looked over there, and we saw Hulk Hogan, Roddy Piper, and we're looking, God dang, man, $750,000.
Oh, did I forget this? I'm sorry.
Underwear, for Christ's sakes, kids, underwear, right? But we didn't see that was the total amount. That wasn't the percentage of what the guys are getting. So we're looking at that. So anyway, we decided to say, hey, man, thank you, but no thanks. We really want to come here, but we got a 3 to 5 year guarantee deal. We're going to take the guarantee. Went home about 2 months later, birthed a demolition. Everybody thought, oh, no, we're going to be mad at demolition. No, we're not going to be mad. Mass Superstar helped get us over. Barry Darsow Smash was, I've known him since I was 16. How am I going to get mad at one of my best friends?
So are you basically telling us that we wouldn't have had demolition if you had signed?
Oh my
Probably-
God, dude! We wouldn't have had demolition.
Probably
This
not.
is horrible.
Probably
Thank
not.
God you didn't sign right away.
So-
Wait, because how did demolition
was
feel
born.
when you did show
Oh
up?
yeah,
Uh-oh.
demolition was born, and then we were there, and we stayed, finished out our contract.
Okay.
Went to Japan for a couple of years.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, now it's time.
Oy.
And here we are. I mean, all four of us talked. Smash.
King Kong
and
meet Godzilla.
Oh
Yeah.
my God, let's go here. We got the Road Warriors against Demolition.
So bad.
Everybody's called you guys imposters for all these years. Everybody's saying you guys got to be hot, want to kill them. Neither did anybody know. We all were buddies.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Want a beer? So, and when we got there, Vince had us beat him in 7 minutes on TV.
Yeah, they totally just.
We were
We
so
were
good, dude.
We thought for sure it was
Any-
going to be a year, 2 year long marriage.
Any protest behind the scenes like Vince, man, come
Brother,
on.
we tried and we tried and we tried. We said, no, man, we got a different direction we're going with you guys. And they just had us going there and pretty much start steamrolling everybody.
I got to tell you, growing up, we loved both of you guys. We loved you both, but we were so disappointed with that.
We were
like,
disappointed.
what happened?
We were disappointed. You know why?
Oh,
Because
I wanted
most
a
of the time
bloodbath.
in our career,
I got a bath.
we didn't get a chance to work long programs.
Yeah.
We did with the Midnight Express a little bit and with the
Yeah.
Four Horsemen, of course.
Yeah.
But we never got to work that long program that really wanted to work, And we thought, oh, man, we're going to New York, Demolition.
Yeah.
The next thing you know, they dropped the belts, after we...
Well, that's
we
when I knew-
Nasty Boys, and I said, oh, what?
No, but that's when I knew they were
Missed
totally just
opportunity.
squashing it. They had the SummerSlam. You guys came and interfered. Do you think it had to do with that Axe was injured and you
It
had...
did. Axe had a little bit of a
Crush.
heart issue,
True.
Yeah.
right?
Towards the
Then he
end,
had
right,
Crush
of his
as a
career.
backup.
Right.
Right.
And, God bless him, once we were in there, too, my partner had his freaking issues. He was suspended about 6 times the company for abuse, And so that didn't help the situation either. You got a company that's putting millions of dollars into promoting you, and you just say, screw off, I want to go
As
there.
a friend, how hard is that for you? Do you talk to him like, yo, bro?
Bro, I told him all the time, I said, brother, I have 3 kids and I got a family here, man. And when you give me that 3 months off, I have 3 months off with no pay.
Right.
I said, I'm not happy about having those 3 months off, but when you're in that frame of mind, man, you're just not thinking right. You're thinking about what makes you happy, what makes you feel good at the time. You're not thinking about anybody else.
Guys,
in the
is the
process.
business itself intoxicating without drugs, without roids, without alcohol, without partying? Is the business itself?
I think the business is changing at that aspect a lot for the better.
Okay.
It's not so bad, like with substance abuse that bad.
No,
you don't hear about guys. Once in a while, guys are out
person here and
Oxycontin,
there. But
Okay.
also, I think that's, again, I can't speak too much. Obviously, he can speak much greater to it. But
What, from the
business
80s?
has
Wait.
changed. But what I mean is, you hear about these 300 dates a year. Sometimes Sundays you run into events and stuff like that. And as he said, now there's so much protocol in place that if you bump your head, you're forced to take 3 months off.
You're off.
You know what I mean? But back then, 3 months off means, well, brother down the street's coming in and taking my spot. I can't take those 3 months off. So I can only think that they relied on that stuff to keep going. You know what I mean? I'm not saying it's right to do, not saying anything like that.
Yeah.
But it's a different monster now where there's so much protocol that you are forced to take time off. Like, I fractured my orbital in Japan, and they said, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, it's okay. I'll bruise up tomorrow. They're like, are you sure you're okay? I'm like, I'm fine. And then I had a shower, and I blew my nose in the shower, and I came out, and it was puffed up, and they're like, you got to go get that checked out.
Right, yeah.
And I'm like, no, I'm fine. I'll work tomorrow. It's okay. You know what I mean? And they're like, no, you have to go get an x-ray. I wasn't going to get an x-ray because I didn't want to take time off.
Yeah.
And that's now. But you are forced.
Right.
And 100% is better because
Better
that's
off,
probably
yeah.
why nobody is getting hooked on painkillers or anything else.
Well, they're giving them
because it's not needed.
much
Yeah.
deserved rest. That's why, there's that big lawsuit against the WWE because they bought. Once you buy out all the other companies, you're kind of responsible for whatever went on those companies. And it's not that you get into the wrestling business saying, hey, you don't know that you're going to get chair shots, you're not going to get concussion. You know you're going to get concussion. But when you're afraid to say, hey, man, I got a concussion because wrestler B is wanting to jump in your shoes, and it's so hard to get that spot, because no, man, I'm cool, let's go. And you go and do it. And you're wrestling 325 days a year, and, twice Christmas Day, twice New Year's Day, twice on Thanksgiving, and everybody's got their families then, and you're away from your family doing it. You know, I had the same thing. Warlord went to do a Samoan slam on me, and when I went back, he pulled me too hard this way, and he was 365. He pulled me down, landed on my head, and my head popped like a zit. My left eye popped out, went back in, and from that one move, I had a cracked skull, broken cheek, blew out my orbit, and had a fractured jaw over there. And because you landed right on my head, I mean, everything came down on my face. But when I did the same thing, I went into the locker room, blew my nose, my cheek went, because you blew that sinus, the sinus door, and when I pushed on it, it went. It flutters in the corner of your eye, and you're going to yourself, something is really messed up here. This ain't right, you know. But, you know, that night I went to Chicago General. The good thing I was in the U.S. I went to Chicago General. They said, man, did you go head first through a car? I said, no, man, I just came from a wrestling match.
I got slammed by Warlord.
He goes, how are you walking? They said, how are you walking in here? You should be on a freaking gurney. And they said, there's no way. You got a major. And I had the operation. Of course, I was supposed to be out 6 months. But then again, show must go on. 3 months.
Yep.
Painted on top of my face is still numb to this day. This half of my face from here down on my lip is numb. I had to reteach myself how to talk for an interview. Yeah, man, because of the energy. But that's part of the business, man.
Now, you're part of that lawsuit, right, against the WWE?
Yeah, you know, here's why I joined the lawsuit. Yes, have I had about 15, 20 concussions in the business? Yes. I felt pressure a lot of times to keep going on with this show? Yes. Got powerbombed from DX off the table through the freaking table on the floors to help get those guys over. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Yes, I knew that. But on the same sense, I'm doing it because once you've established so much in this business, you should be given some kind of respect. Like some of the guys, like for instance, Ivan Koloff, God rest his soul, right? Had a bad ankle problem. Wanted to be part of the Legends contract. And they said, no, you can't do it. He goes, I only want to do it for the 10 grand I needed to get my ankle rebuilt. No, it's not a charity case. Are you kidding me? That guy should have had health insurance for life. You are worth billions of dollars. That's why I joined on with the lawsuit. I didn't want to be the face of the lawsuit like they made me, of course, but I joined it for the guys, for the boys, to be able to get something out of what you put into this business. Because let's face it, once you're gone, you're gone.
So, but Animal, here's a point though, right? As the boys, you guys could have got together. You could have created a union, but you seem, as a group, can't seem to get your shit together. So you continue to stay independent contractors, and so where's the responsibility lie? Doesn't it lie on the wrestler also?
Yeah, it is on the wrestler's fault, man, because you listen, the guys who used to try to do it before, like Hogan and Ventura that tried it, bam, blackballed. Right. You get blackballed and no one will ever use you again. Now, AEW has become the closest by giving the guys health insurance and everything else right now.
Well, they get them health insurance because they're officers in the company. They are actual employees.
See,
the other wrestlers are not getting
that was a misconception that everybody forgets to realize.
Right.
He has a work for hire type thing, so they're not all getting insurance. I believe if you're working for the company, they can afford it. Look, you got Tony Khan with all the money the Khans have. You could pay to have everybody have insurance in your company. Vince could pay to have everybody have insurance in the company.
Does this not become, and again, this is just devil's advocate, does this not become the problem? Because I'm assuming other sports have some kind of insurance, right?
Well, most of them unionized, right?
So you look at NBA or MLB. Okay, I'm a big baseball fan.
Sure.
Somebody sprains their finger, they're off for 6 weeks. They don't have to worry about it because they have a union and all this kind of stuff. Yeah. I feel like maybe that's a problem with why it's very hard to do with wrestling, because a lot of things.
Look, we have a lot of guys like yourself in here. I asked the same question. The older guys, I'm telling you, the more successful ones, like, nah, I'm myself. I did it for myself. I took care of myself. You can't keep your money. That's your problem. You got a drug problem. Your problem.
Yeah.
Look, I agree, right? A guy like Ivan Koloff, that guy made billions of dollars. And again, I don't know what Vince McMahon does. I have no clue. He could have given Ivan Koloff $1 billion. But then on the other hand, you got a guy like superstar Billy Graham, right? Vince McMahon has helped that guy 1,000,000 times, and all that guy does is trash him on a regular basis.
I will say one thing about the healthcare thing. Obviously, it would be great. I'm paying like $1,500 a month for health insurance for me and my family.
That's a lot of money.
But in the same token, every company I've ever been with that I've ever had to visit a hospital, they have covered. So like I got split open at Ring of Honor. I had to go to emergency room, which is even with insurance is very expensive. They paid that. Fractured my orbital in Japan, New Japan paid that. I hurt my knee in Japan, New Japan paid all that. Even with the insurance, you're looking at $4,000 for the knee after everything. So like luckily maybe the health insurance is there, which obviously would be a huge help than paying that $1,500 a month. But every company I have been with has been good and paid for any injuries that happen within that company. Which, my hat's off to them because legally we are independent contractors. They don't have to do that. So, at least they have looked out. And again, I can't speak on WWE because I've never been there. But with Ring of Honor before, with New Japan, luckily I haven't been hurt. I've only been with Impact since April. But I'm certain that they would be the same type of company.
Japanese companies always took care of them. They have always taken care of the boys. Listen, when I had Warlord did my orbital rim when I was at WWF, my insurance paid for it. When I broke my back, my insurance paid for it. I had to pay the big nut on the other end of it, right? So, and little things like that, and here I am, and I know for a fact I'm number 1 or 2 in merchandise sales for the company at the time. Mm-hmm. I'm making you a little bit of extra dough. Mm-hmm. Slide me an extra 5% on my merchandise, I'm happy.
Yeah.
That's all you have to do, and I think that's where it's different today, is they're making so much more money on royalties that the guys don't, who cares? I'll pay the insurance.
Yeah, they're good.
And listen, it's not about me not knowing that, hey, you're going to get hurt. I know you're going to get hurt. I wasn't a dummy getting into it. That's not why I'm doing it. I'm doing it for the guys and girls who are wrestling that maybe need that little help at the end of their career. Mm-hmm. Hey, man, pay for their insurance or pay a stipend to them for their insurance.
It would be I know as a Canadian moving to the States, that's a kick in the butt knowing I have to pay for health insurance. Yeah. Mind you, the weight, I hurt my knee on like a Saturday. Had to check up on Monday and surgery by Wednesday, so it definitely happens quicker in the States. But that $1,500 a month is just like
it's brutal. Look, mine's about there that too for 3 people.
We got a few minutes. Animal, I just want to ask you to share your thoughts about your former partner who passed away, Hawk, and tell everybody what type of person he was, and then maybe you both could tell everybody where you're going to be this weekend, and so they can catch you.
Sure. Well, Hawk was talk about someone in the business that was a man's man. Hawk was a man's man. Hawk didn't pull any punches. What you saw is what you got. But he was also the guy, I'll never forget when we were doing a shoot in Manhattan. And we walked by and there's this wino coming up. We were coming up like a 23 station, on the subway. There's this wino sitting there. And he's down and out with the Joneses and everything else. And he goes, "Hey, Animal, give me $100. I said, "Why?" He goes, "I'm going to give this guy $100. So then we both gave him $100, and the guy didn't know what to do. I'm sure he's going to go buy wine for the whole block. But still, that's the kind of guy Hawk was. He would give you the shirt off his back in an instant. He was the guy. He was like, we used to call him like Mr. Congeniality. Like he was running for mayor all the time. You know what I mean? And he was a great human being, man. Did he have his demons and issues? Absolutely. He cost us making millions of dollars marketing-wise and merchandise, man. Millions of dollars. Probably why I'm still doing appearances today. Because every time he got suspended, there I was getting suspended, And then when he died, unexpectedly, it was like, holy crap, now what am I going to do?
Well, they gave you Heidenreich, right?
Yeah, then they gave me Heidenreich, which was the same as Hawk.
Yeah.
Or worse.
Really?
Oh, brother.
Holy
They found him passed out on the New York Thruway, bleeding from his ears one time. What does that tell you what he was doing, man? Your sinuses are that bad, you're bleeding from your ears. Yeah, man. So when all that happened, it was just like, yeah. But yeah, man, he was a great guy. And I did the Heidenreich thing because the LOD stuff was still selling so strong merchandise-wise. They wanted to keep that train going because that was going really well. And they were probably paying me off the merchandise.
Were you torn by that, though? Like, man.
Yeah, because it's hard. Listen.
I don't have my guy anymore.
There's only going to be one run, man. And one
that had to be rough, man.
You're never going to be able to redo it. But it was a way for me to keep feeding my family, man, and paying the bills and stuff like that. So, in that aspect, it was great, man. So, it's, it was a sad day when he died, man. I'll never forget it, man. I was living in right outside of Minneapolis at the time, and I'm vacuuming my pool out there and enjoying a nice, beautiful Sunday. And There's a friend of mine, Bobby Muller, and the guy from Brooklyn is a photographer, and he used to work for George Napolitano. And he goes, Joe, how you doing? I'm good, man. He goes, have you heard from Mike lately? He said, yeah, he called me last night about 1 o'clock in the morning. He was still moving. So he was moving from his condo into a house because the condo, you get sandblasted on St. Pete, like takes all the paint off everything. So he goes, I'm going to move my stuff in the house for my wife. And he goes, you talked to him today? And I said, no, I didn't. And it's about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. He goes, Mike died last night. I said, what? And that's how I found out, man. I sat on my deck and I cried like a freaking baby. I mean, I was with Hawk more than I was with my family and my wife.
Of course.
We were together for 21 years, 22 years, man. Every day, pretty much.
Was he more of a brother to you than your actual brothers?
Man, he probably really was. You know, my brother Mark and I were pretty close, with definitely more than Johnny and I. You know, I mean, I was with Hawk through thick and thin, through everything. You know, when he had Hep C, I was right there when he was going through the interferon treatments. You know, when he got everything else, and I always forgave him for all the stupid stuff. When he got so messed up and he took off and he went to Japan and started working with Kensuke Sasaki. Yeah. Did that angle with Kensuke. And I said, all right, good thing, man. I was a smart businessman. I had Lloyd's of London. I said, okay, bro. I broke my back. I might as well collect my Lloyd's. Although I could feel pretty healthy medically on film, I'm messed up. Because we have so much spurs in our body and our spine, you don't realize how many spurs you got until you take a picture of it. And you used to go, what the heck? How am I even moving? You know, you're like an arthritic spore walking around. You know, but yeah, man, it is what it is, man. I miss the guy. I miss him. If he were alive today, brother, we would be killing these appearances together.
What it was the greatest run in the history of tag team wrestling. That's what that was.
All right, so speaking of appearances, where are you guys going to be seen in this big weekend for professional wrestling?
We're at Standalone Wrestling.
Okay. Friday night fights, right?
Friday night fights for Standalone Wrestling.
And Mike, are you wrestling in?
Yes.
Look at that.
I'll be wrestling tonight.
Nice.
Yeah,
who are you pounding down? I mean,
who's that? Serpentico or something? I forget. To be honest.
Dude.
And that's no disrespect to him. I see so many announcements
You're
on matches,
Puma
I get
King?
them all mixed up.
Is it Puma King? Puma King's at every event.
And then on Saturday, you guys are at the big event?
Yeah,
The
big event.
yeah.
And then Wrestle Pro at night.
Excellent.
Yeah, man.
And speaking of big event, that's 8 to 3 p.m. and Monty Nefaro will be with Village Connection over with our own JJ McGuire, who will be selling his new book, My Life in Heaventown, right? Stories from a composer and historian and an icon to professional wrestling. And I want to thank the great Hall of Famer Animal and the future WWE star Mike Elgin joining us. I want Bart from Wisteria Hall to send us out, along with the great JJ McGuire.
Great, say it. Say your theme. Give us a rush.
Who, me?
You.
Okay, let's see if I can do Hawk's thing justice, man.